Shalom, shalom. How y'all doing? Giving our praises, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, and the name of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahweh Shah. Say, man, got some news you can use if you're paying attention to what's going on around us. So the United States have stolen a oil tanker from Venezuela. I repeat, the United States have stolen a oil tanker from Venezuela. Now, this is classic bullying. The United States couldn't defeat China in a trade war. They couldn't defeat Russia fighting Ukraine. Then they had the war against the Hamas with the Israelis, and we see how that ended. So now, since they can't control the world stage anymore, they're focusing on this side of the world, right? So they're going to bully who they can bully. Since they can't bully the big boys, they want to bully someone smaller, but there's a problem with that. So let's just check out what the news got to say about this.
As you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, a large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually.
The United States is ramping up its military operations off the coast of Venezuela, and this time seizing an oil tanker. Take a look at this new video to our monitors here showing that operation. President Donald Trump confirmed the operation during a roundtable with tech leaders just yesterday. Now, this is the first U.S. seizure of an oil cargo from Venezuela. It's also the Trump administration's first known action against a Venezuela-related tanker since ordering a massive military buildup in the Caribbean. Venezuela is now accusing the U.S. of, quote, blatant theft and international piracy. CBS News senior.
But isn't the whole history of America built on theft? Stealing people, stealing land, stealing gold and silver and minerals, stealing from Africa, stealing from Australia, stealing from America, South America, stealing from Hawaii, stealing from everybody. Ain't that what the foundation of America built off of? Stealing? So that's what they're doing. They're stealing. But when the Houthis was doing it, they was the worst people on the earth. Oh, but America do it. They're seizing.
Senior national security correspondent Charlie Dagra has those details.
Venezuela has condemned the seizure of its oil tankers, international piracy, and brazen theft. We're learning that Russian President Vladimir Putin, in a phone call with Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro, expressed solidarity with the Venezuelan people. Some Democratic lawmakers are expressing concern. Senator Rand Paul saying it sounds a lot like the beginning of a war. Chris Coons says he is gravely concerned Trump is sleepwalking us into a war with Venezuela. And certainly seizing that oil tanker yesterday has taken tensions with Venezuela to a whole new level. We're learning more of what looks like a multi-agency operation with the backup of the U.S. military, the FBI, and Homeland Security were involved, and elite Coast Guard Special Operations Forces called Maritime Security Response Teams, including sailors and Marines from the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft. That's the largest and most advanced aircraft carrier in the world. They all took part. Officials tell us the interdiction took place without incident. That's a military term. No injuries to anyone, including the crew of the tanker. Is reportedly full of oil and is headed to Cuba. We've tracked that tanker as it entered the Caribbean from the Middle East, from the Far East. And the U.S. has sanctioned Venezuela's oil companies for years. But this specific tanker was seized because it was on the U.S. Treasury's Department's specially designated nationals list for carrying that sanctioned oil from places like Venezuela and Iran, though that was under a different name. And Attorney General Pam Bondi says that makes that ship a legitimate target. So this is all part of the pressure campaign against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his government, in addition to sanctions, dozens of strikes on suspected drug boats, and that massive military buildup that gets bigger by the day. President Trump saying Maduro's days are numbered, and he has not ruled out a land invasion. And despite those sanctions, there are plenty more oil tankers going in and out of Venezuela.
He want to take Maduro out, but then he pardoned the real drug dealer. Make it make sense, man. But it's not going to make sense because we living in Babylon, and Babylon means confusion.
Back to you.
Charlie D'Agata there. Thank you. Let's go live now to the White House and CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman. Willie James, thanks for your time today. Did the president say what the U.S. plans to do with the oil?
Hey there, Mugo. Well, the president did touch on the situation off the coast of Venezuela with the U.S. taking possession of this large oil tanker. The president said is one of the largest seizures ever of this type of oil tanker. But he did touch on potentially what we could see next, but also the situation at hand. Take a listen to what the president said yesterday.
What did he say? Nothing.
Okay, I'm told that we don't have that sound from the president, but he did say that we'll keep it, I guess. And a reporter in the room asked him, where does it go, what port it would go to? And the president simply said that you'll have to follow the tanker. So certainly this is a situation in which the U.S. Appears to have escalated this push against Nicolas Maduro, the leader of Venezuela. Of course, we know that the U.S., the president in particular, has blasted Maduro, essentially saying that he's the head of a drug cartel.
We just want him out of there so that they can take the Venezuelan oil.
Of course, know that oil is a big money maker for Venezuela. So the U.S. taking possession of this sanctioned oil tanker certainly is a escalation of sorts. It's unclear what happens with the oil, but the president seemingly saying that we'll potentially keep it. But it's unclear what will happen next from there, though, Mugo.
Yeah, and Willie James, you obviously mentioned Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro there. Is this all part of an effort to remove him from power?
And it's mighty strange that they do this right when the Epstein pictures come out. And when the Epstein pictures come out, now we see the oil tankers. Okay.
Well, the president has been asked this multiple times, including this week in an interview with Politico, but he was also asked this question by our own reporter, I should say, on 60 Minutes. He was talking to about this situation, I should say, in terms of what could potentially happen to Maduro. Take a listen.
On Venezuela in particular, are Maduro's days as president numbered?
I would say, yeah. I think so, yeah.
That was theft and piracy. That's what the pirates.
So that's Nora O'Donnell there, of course, the correspondent for 60 Minutes, asking the president that question in terms of what happens to Maduro. The president has demurred in terms of regime change, in terms of if Nicolas Maduro would perhaps stay in power. And the president hasn't ruled out military escalation in terms of striking those military targets, those drug cartels in Venezuela, those land strikes. So the president hasn't ruled out that option, but oftentimes when he gets asked this question about whether or not Maduro will stay in power or if the U.S. wants to take him out of power, he essentially demurs, doesn't want to necessarily give away or play all of his cards, or show all of his cards rather, in terms of what he will do next. But certainly a change of action coming here from this administration with the seizure
this
of
video that we watched.
The president yesterday said that Colombia could be next.
Support for
Venezuela. Of course, know that the president has targeted.
The U.S. seizes oil tankers. See, this what we need to know about. Because if Russia is supporting him,
did you know you can heat and cool your home with one super efficient?
It's going to go down because they being bullies, man. Moscow vows to defend Venezuela's sovereignty as U.S. President. Russian President calls Maduro says big message.
A high-stakes phone call held between Vladimir Putin and Nicolas Maduro amid as Washington ramps up pressure on Venezuela. Kremlin confirmed that the Russian president reached out to the Venezuelan leader, reaffirming Moscow's strategic backing for Caracas, just as tensions spike following U.S. military activity in the Caribbean. According to Russia media, both leaders emphasized the need to accelerate joint economic and energy projects already in motion. These initiatives, from oil to wider trade economic cooperation, fall under the newly implemented Russia-Venezuela Treaty on Strategic Partnership and Cooperation, which came into effect last year. Reports also said that Putin expressed solidarity with the Venezuela as Washington intensifies pressure on Caracas. The U.S. has carried out strikes in the Caribbean Sea, claiming it is targeting drug cartel networks linked to Venezuela. Allegations President Maduro has forcefully rejected as fabricated. Kremlin's statement said Putin reaffirmed support for Maduro's policies to safeguard national interests and sovereignty. Both sides agreed to push forward joint projects in energy, finance, and humanitarian spheres, all expanded under existing OPEC Plus and bilateral mechanisms. The call underscores an escalating geopolitical divide. As the U.S. expands its footprint in the Caribbean, Russia and Venezuela deepen defense, energy, and diplomatic collaboration. For Moscow, Caracas remains one of its most crucial partners in the Western Hemisphere. For Venezuela, Putin's outreach signals continued political cover and a counterweight to U.S. influence.
Russia's big military move. Warplanes land in Venezuela's heart. Russia's secret IL-76 touches down in Caracas. Putin's army signals presence amid U.S. naval buildup in the Caribbean. Giant Russian aircraft linked to military dragnet as reportedly landing in Venezuela. Yusuf, IL-76 air station, arrived in Caracas over the weekend. Report. Flight trackers showed the plane departed from Moscow to reach Latin. The Russian plane reportedly took multiple stops before reaching its destination. The route included Armenia, Algeria, Morocco, Senegal, and Martiniana before entering Venezuelan airspace. Reports suggest the detour was to avoid Western airspace or inspections in transit countries. The IL-76 is capable of carrying about 50 tons of cargo or up to 200 troops. Similar aircraft have previously been used for transporting military supplies or personnel. The arrival comes amid rising tensions between Venezuela and the United States. Washington has deployed an aircraft carrier strike group to the region with a major show of force. The U.S. has accused Caracas of involvement in illegal drug trade and targeted suspected vessels. That's a lie. Venezuela, however, has denounced the U.S. military presence as an attempt to fabricate war. That's exactly what it did. A day earlier, Kremlin reacted to massive American military buildup near Venezuela. Peskov stated that Venezuela is a sovereign nation and warned against provocative action.
According to Trump's statement, he promised to resolve another conflict, this time between North Korea and South Korea. How does the Kremlin assess the prospects for ending this conflict?
we are ready to welcome any steps in this direction. Venezuela is a sovereign state, and in any case, we proceed from the fact that everything happening around Venezuela should occur in accordance with the spirit and letter of international law.
Yeah, so Russia's showing that they have their back because they have interest there. China has interest there. The same way when the United States have interest somewhere, they're going to defend their interests. So you cannot expect Russia or China to back down on that because America does the same thing. So now let's hear what a few experts on this matter has to say. Scott Ritter, Danny Hypom, and I forget this other guy's name, but let's see what some talking points they have on it.
Up off the coast of Venezuela, Venezuelan tanker that was heading to.
Oh, sorry. Got all these extra screens up.
Cuba with about $60 million US dollars roughly of oil. Venezuela lambasted this move, saying that they will not allow foreign power to attempt to seize from the Venezuelan people what belongs to them from historical and constitutional rights, and condemned the act. And it wasn't the first time that this has been raised, as Donald Trump in 2024 said conflict with Venezuela was about the oil. And here was Trump's reaction to reporters asking about this act of piracy.
What happens to the oil on this ship? Well, we keep it, I guess. Well, you have to follow the tanker. You know, you're a good newsman. Just follow the tanker.
You know where
follow it. Get a helicopter. Follow the tanker.
Is it true it's going to
But we're gonna. I assume we're gonna keep the.
This comes within the context of the Hegseth war crimes probe, wherever it is now in that saga, as well as, of course, the threat of regime change in Venezuela.
Well, I mean, first of all, let's just call what happened by its real name. It's piracy. So the United States is now a pirate nation. Yay. Because there's no legal justification for what the United States did. Even under U.S. law, it's, they say that it was FBI agents that carried out this raid as though this was some sort of law enforcement action. It's an act of piracy, straight up. And it feeds into a broader narrative of the illegality of the American posture, the illegality of the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. It's fundamentally at odds with international law, but Trump doesn't care. But more critically, much of what the United States is doing and perhaps is planning to do vis-a-vis Venezuela and its neighbors is a violation of American law and the law of war. We had this September 2nd incident where we struck a boat after Pete Hegseth apparently gave an order to kill them all. And remember, people say, come on, Scott, did he really say it? Guys, you do listen to him, don't you? I mean, you did read or hear his statement before the 800 officers at Quantico about maximum lethality. We don't do silly rules of engagement anymore. No. Those silly rules of engagement out the window. We're about maximum lethality. And then, he has given subsequent speeches where he basically says our goal is to kill everybody. And so it's not unrealistic to believe, as some people have said, that he gave orders that matched the president's own rhetoric. The president has been on record talking about killing them all. I just want to remind people I voted for this crowd. Who gives a damn? No one cares what you voted for. You can't vote for illegality. No amount of votes can change the fact that what's being done is illegal. For those who say they're drug traffickers, we got a lot of drug traffickers here in the United States. They drive up and down the I-95 corridor, and there's other corridors out there. So you're saying that the State Department, if they get a good tip-off that there's cocaine in that Porsche, you just gun them down. Don't even have to try and stop them. Just shoot them up. And if they come crawling out of the car, waving their hands, just kill them, execute them, walk up and pop them in the head because they're drug dealers. They don't have any rights. Do you understand the stupidity of your argument right now? Also, you need to understand that under the Department of Defense Law Warfare Manual, shipwreck status is quite clearly defined. And those two survivors were shipwrecked in every meaning of the word. And we murdered them. We killed them. That's a violation of the law of war. It's illegal to give an order to take no prisoners. That's a violation. And it's illegal to double tap survivors of shipwrecks. They're out of the fight. And so what's happened here is that the military is starting to ask questions. The commander of Southern Command, an admiral who, normally it's a 3-year position, less than a year out, I heard someone say, I disagree on drug boats. I don't really give a rat's ass what you disagree with, because your stupidity shines through everything you do. Know the law before you open your mouth. I don't care what your opinion is. No one cares what your opinion is. Nobody in the military cares what your opinion is, because your opinion doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the law, and the law is quite clear. And what's happened here is that the president is telling the military to do things that are patently illegal. And it's causing a lot of problems in the military. Admiral Bradley's in a lot of trouble right now because he violated the law of war. He should be court-martialed. And just so you understand, this isn't a minor violation. This isn't a technicality. The United States Congress has passed a War Crimes Act, I think in 1996. And it clearly states in the War Crimes Act that any major or grave violation of the Geneva Conventions, the international law of war, that is the premise of the Department of Defense Law of War Manual. So any violation, gross violation, is punishable by life imprisonment or death. We're not playing games here. This is how serious this should be taken. So for a simple civilian to sit and say, I voted for this, I don't care about drug boats, kill them all. No one really cares what you think. The military has to do what is required by law. And right now we have a lot of military people saying, we're not comfortable with this. And so even though Pete Hegseth has announced the initiation of Operation, I think it's a Southern Spear, the largest military operation in the Caribbean in years, the Gerald Ford and everything else is out there. Notice they're not shooting up as many boats as they used to. Notice they're not doing much of anything, because the military is starting to question everything. All the things, for instance, we can read into this. You got to ask yourself why Bradley was the guy running the operation. Why is JSOC, because he was the head of the Joint Special Operations Command, why is JSOC running this operation? Because nobody else would. But another reason why is the sources intelligence methods that are used. The Navy SEALs have a squadron called Black Squadron. It's their intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance squadron. You notice that the president and everybody else says, we know what's on that boat. There's no question about it. I believe them. I believe they know exactly what's on that boat, because I believe Black Squadron is on the ground in Venezuela doing their job. And they are getting the hard intelligence about who's on that boat, what's on that boat. I'm not debating, I, for one, am not somebody running out there going, they're fishing boats, they're fishing boats. No, I think they're drug boats. I think they're drug boats. We know the names of the people on board, and we know the content because we have photographs of it. Black Squadron probably has taken samples of the drugs, so they have irrefutable evidence that there is narcotic material there. Photographs of the people on it, trackers on the boat, and then they fly out there, and the Navy, forget the name of the drone they use, but that drone picks it up. It has a laser designator, and they designate the boat, and a helicopter or some other platform fires a standoff hellfire and comes in and blows the boat up. Simple, except you can't kill these people. They've committed no crime worthy of that. Even though you have that intelligence on its own doesn't allow you to kill. That intelligence allows you to detain. There still is due process that has to occur under law. And what the military has been told to do is violate due process, go straight in, get to the kill chain. And even when you kill, to kill them all. These are war crimes. And the military is starting to say, we're not so thrilled about half this stuff. And I think you're seeing a chilling impact on the U.S. military's ability to carry out Donald Trump's plans regarding Venezuela. That doesn't mean that it won't happen. It just means that I think they're going to have to take a different tact because at the end of the day, the majority of the military people take their oath to uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, very seriously. They've all been schooled on the law of war, and they all understand their obligations when confronted with a patently illegal order. And now, I think now that somebody like Bradley is being put under the spotlight, more and more military people are saying, time out. I need a JAG review in writing, JAG being the judge advocate. I need a JAG review in writing, and then I'm going to voice my disagreement in writing. Now you've got a record, and no commander wants to deal with that kind of nonsense. And so there's a chilling impact right now on what's going on militarily against Venezuela.
And then you have reports like this, where something like this seized tanker is just normal, according to the think Tankerstan mouthpieces of the neocons.
A tanker. How could this escalate the conflict with Venezuela?
Well, you know, we've had sanctions on Venezuelan oil.
Eve Online.
So we're going to stop right there because we really got enough to give an understanding of what's going on with that situation for right now. Trump is trying to take down Maduro of Venezuela. Why? Because they want their oil. As simple as that. Because they can't fight China if you ain't got no oil, right? So China's buying Russian oil. They're buying Iranian oil. So America's trying to stockpile oil so they can prepare for a future war, because they're never going to stop trying to fight anybody until they be totally destroyed. So just a little update, breaking news on the United States, their mischievous actions and piracy and theft is what's going on right now. It's nothing new. Nothing new. This is the American way. So stay tuned for more breaking news. Stay tuned for more reaction videos, for more biblical classes, for more street teaching. Look out for some more music that's going to be coming up. And give all praise to the Most High, man. In the name of His only begotten Son, the Mashiach Yahushua. And I say peace. Hope y'all got something out of that.